Okay, so we'll begin the readings, and what I've chosen for the reading is it's from a series of talks that I gave quite a few years ago, beginning of winter retreat, on mindfulness of breathing. And over the years, people have keep asking, when is it going to be a book? When are you going to make it into publish it? And so that we've actually have been working on it. So these are edited versions of the talks. And I'm just going to start with talk one. And then also, because it is still a manuscript, if anybody's got something isn't clear or something is sounds a bit strange, then feel free to let me know or Debbie know, because she's working on it as well. But anyway, this is the first talk of a series of talks that I gave years ago. So this is titled Turning to the Formal Practice. This is the retreat's opening day, and it's good to be turning attention to the formal practice of meditation. It's inevitable that our formal practice waxes and wanes. Just having this time in the winter to put our attention on the formal practice is essential. Putting effort into practice is necessary for our spiritual well-being, as well as the community's. Last night, on the way up to my kuti, I was chatting with Lee, talking about comparisons between music and practice. Lee brought up a quote of Arthur Rubinstein about musicians. If somebody didn't practice for a day, then he would notice it. If they didn't practice for 2 days, then the musicians noticed it. And if they didn't practice for 3 days, then everybody noticed it. I think it's remarkably similar with meditation and the cultivation of the skills of looking after our mind and the subtleties of where our moods, impressions, feelings, and thoughts go and what they lead to. The cultivation of mindfulness and using a particular meditation technique starts to give us a handle on how to sustain attention and establishes a basis of awareness, so we can start tuning in to recognize more clearly not just the subtle, but also the gross aspects of what our minds tend to do to us. Mindfulness of breathing, of course, is my shtick. It's where I tend to focus my own practice, and then I speak from that experience and use it as a framework for talking about practice. This can be extrapolated to different methods and techniques of practice, but mindfulness of breathing is certainly my own foundation and one that I feel confident in encouraging others. Mindfulness of breathing starts with closely paying attention to posture. Get a good feel for the body as it's sitting. Adjust your posture and cushions to help support your back. If you're sitting on a cushion, sit a bit forward so that your weight is on your sit bones, not your tailbone. There's a difference. If you sit back a bit, the weight is more on the tailbone. Sitting a bit forward, the weight is on the hips, which gives the back better balance and poise. If you sit back a bit too much, the bottom of your spine collapses. This then rolls your shoulders forward, and your mid-back starts to ache. Sitting a little bit forward, your pelvis is tilted slightly, and then your spine is able to rise up out of the pelvic cradle. There's a balance where your spine is nice and straight. Actually, it just feels straight. What you're doing is supporting the natural curvature of the spine. You get a nice balance in the spine where you're sitting up straight, not holding yourself up with your back muscles. People try to bring themselves up into a straight posture by using their back or shoulder muscles, and that gets very tiring. The muscles that are used to get a balanced posture are the abdominals. Keep the head nice and straight. Tilt it a little bit forward, again following the natural curvature of the spine, giving a nice balance. Let the breath start to be very natural or smooth without straining, pushing, or controlling. Just allow the breath to enter the body and leave the body in a very relaxed and natural way. Mindfulness of breathing is not an exercise in breath control. It's an exercise in mindfulness and being attentive to what the breath is doing. If it's a short in-breath, know it's a short in-breath. If it's a short out-breath, know that it's a short out-breath. If it's a long in-breath, know that it's a long in-breath. If it's a long out-breath, know that it's a long out-breath. Just be attentive to that much. Recognize and use it as the basis of attention. Whether the breath is short or long doesn't really matter at all in the end. What's important is the awareness of and attentiveness to the breath. Generally, what will happen as one relaxes is that the mind settles and the body becomes more tranquil. The breath will become longer. It's a natural rhythm. The body is relaxed and settled. When the breath comes in and goes out, it's usually longer and again relaxed. There's no rushing and no need to rush. The main thing is just the sense of knowing clearly. The verb used in the Buddha's discourse, pajanati, means to know clearly. Know or recognize clearly what the breath is doing. The short breath, the long breath, whether it's coming in or going out. To recognize clearly, it's helpful to be really attentive to the beginning of the breath. As the breath first comes in, use the tip of the nose as an entry point. Know the sensation of the breath clearly. Is it cool or warm? Does it feel restricted or is it flowing freely? Does it itch? Be attentive to that sensation. Hone attention in on the different subtleties of where you are experiencing the breath. There's the sensation at the tip of the nose as one is bringing the breath in. The breath comes into the nasal cavity, passes back into the throat and down into the body. There's sensation all the way along there. Start to pay attention to that. Again, we've got 3 months of opportunity for exploring the breath, so don't be afraid of looking at the subtleties and the nuances of how you experience it. Oftentimes it happens that people tend to try to get the nimitta, which is particularly in the Visuddhimagga, it's like a meditative sign or a meditative image that comes up. The characteristic or common signs of the breath. They forget to really attend to the breath, the breathing, and the sensation. Be more interested in exploring the breath than trying to gain something from the breath or out of the meditation. There's this frantic quality that comes into the mind when we try to make the meditation be a particular way to get results and fulfill the ideal of what we think we should be doing. There can be a sense of trying to get the nimitta because we've heard that's what we should be doing. There should be some sort of nimitta arising. We don't even know what nimitta means, but we're going to get it anyway. It's very much a part of our meditation to start recognizing the underlying assumptions that come with just trying to perform a simple act, like being attentive to the breath, breathing in and breathing out. It's such a simple and ubiquitous act that we have to be doing all the time. It's so easy to start overlaying it with our desires, projections, assumptions, views, and opinions without even questioning what we're doing. We just slip right into that. Part of taking an interest is recognizing a bit more clearly what hampers clear knowledge of the in and the out breath. We start to investigate that because then we can start to get insights into particular tendencies we have without getting bogged down. Just taking note. Well, that's interesting. The main focus is coming back to the breath, paying attention to the sensation of the breath as it comes into and leaves the body. Particularly when we first start sitting, it's helpful to really establish mindfulness of the breath, its rhythm and sensation. As the breath comes in, to feel it coming from the tip of the nose, the back of the throat, down into the chest and abdomen, as the abdomen rises. Then, as the abdomen falls, be attentive to that sensation, connecting the body and the breath together. That gives an anchor to the breath and the meditation. If you feel more comfortable bringing attention to the abdomen, once you've established that initial connection with the body and the breath, then use the abdomen as the main focal point. The tip of the nose and the abdomen are probably the 2 main points that are commonly used to focus attention in the meditation. Focusing on the abdomen has advantages and disadvantages. just like everything else. The abdomen has the advantage of its physical movement being somewhat clear and not quite as subtle a sensation. There's a lot to pay attention to in the physical movement of the abdomen rising and falling, which gives you a clear object to be attending to. That's helpful because the mind wanders and needs to be engaged. This is really important for meditation. One needs to be engaging the mind in order to be able to sustain attention. If you're not engaging attention, taking an interest, and assessing the results of that attention, then the mind is going to start going dull very quickly. What often happens in meditation is that people tend to sit down, place attention on the breath, and then wait for the results to come, for the mind to become peaceful. What usually happens then is the mind goes dull and gets drowsy, or one starts daydreaming and proliferating. Engaging attention is necessary as the mind needs work to do. This is what's called kammatthana, the basis of action and work. The work of the mind is refining this. The meditator's work is clarifying awareness. One needs to be engaged in that. There are different ways of engaging attention that you need to experiment with. The actual object, the place where you pay attention, is already an aspect of what you need to be considering. The abdomen, the sensation of the breath, the sensation of the abdomen moving, rising and falling. Physical sensation is a helpful way of engaging attention. I found focusing on the abdomen helpful for a long time because it was far away from my thinking and restless proliferating mind. It was helpful for me to be able to settle. If I tried to pay attention at the tip of the nose, I would just get caught up in my own thinking and proliferating, and that wasn't useful for me. I found the actual coming down into the center of the body, anchoring the breath, not in an extremity, but in the core of my being, to be very grounding. In the Chinese conception of the body, the lower abdomen is the focal point for energy. When you do Qigong, Kung Fu, or Tai Chi, you move from the abdomen. That's where your center of energy and balance is. When you use the mindfulness of breathing coming into the abdomen, there's a strong centering, energetic quality. That's important to consider. Experiment and see if that is useful. Recognize what the benefits are. Using the tip of the nose as the point of attention has advantages and disadvantages. I mentioned the disadvantages that I experienced, but as I've continued meditating over the years, I'd say a lot of internal restlessness has settled for me, so I find the tip of the nose useful because of its subtlety and one-pointedness. It's not moving in the same way the abdomen does. There's a point of attention to keep focusing in on. What do you need to help the meditation go smoothly? Certainly, we all need mindfulness, bringing these qualities of mindfulness and awareness to attending to the breath. When we use the word mindfulness, we mean that sense of really being present for the breath, receiving it with an open, clear quality in the mind. Actually check, what does it mean to be mindful? We talk about mindfulness of breathing, so we leap into the breathing. But what about the mindfulness part? Are we actually being mindful? What is mindfulness? How do I sustain it? You have to question that. Because if you just lock into the breath and say, okay, now is my meditation time, without really establishing mindfulness, then all you do is drift off, wander, proliferate, or get dull. That defeats the whole purpose. How do you become alert? How do you create awareness? The basic quality of mindfulness is that you're actually awake. If you're not even awake, where's the mindfulness? How does one even get to the first base in the meditation if you don't start with wakefulness? Create that wakefulness and alertness. It's fine if that means opening the eyes. That's not a problem. It's better to sit with the eyes open and be awake than drifting and spending the time in dullness. Straighten the posture. Put attention on energizing the body and using the body to energize the mind. This is where the mind and body function together. Sitting up straight. How do I place the hands? Where is the head? How is it feeling? Where are the shoulders? Go through the body and establish a posture that is energetic and upright. Put forth effort. An important part of the meditation is creating the foundation for mindfulness to sustain itself. Effort is a necessary part of that. Bring attention to the posture, straightening and energizing it without becoming stiff and rigid. When I say energizing, there's a relaxing quality there as well. The energy of meditation is something that is very soothing and relaxing. And because it is relaxing, it's able to be sustained. If you relate to energy as something that's just ramping up as if you're on some sort of amphetamine high, that's rather different. We need to cultivate an energy that has a meditative quality, where there's awareness and alertness, but also a nice balance and evenness. A sense of relaxation is there as well. Again, that's where the physical posture is helpful. Use it almost like a weather vane to get a sense of whether there's balance. Is it alert and bright? Am I present? Am I mindful? Bring attention back to the posture and breathing. The question that should be reverberating through the mind is this meditation? Is this mindfulness? Is this mindfulness of breathing? What am I doing? Because if the question isn't there, then often the time passes, the bell rings, and one just goes on to do something else. In Thailand, a common meditation technique is using the mantra Buddho in many different ways, particularly in conjunction with the breath. Bud on the in-breath, Do on the out-breath. One thing that's always emphasized is the meaning of Buddho. Buddho means the one who knows. Then question, who is the one who knows? What am I knowing? What is this quality of the one who knows? What is Buddho? Creating a question in the mind helps bring up alertness, because without that questioning, querying, and investigation, mindfulness and meditation can turn into something very flat. There needs to be investigation. What's the mindfulness for? What's the purpose? What use is it? Through this, there's a sense of again returning to the quality of mindfulness and awareness. How to bring it up? How to maintain it? Use the breath as the vehicle. As the breath comes in, sustain attention through the beginning of the breath, the middle of the breath, the end of the breath. As the breath goes out, be very attentive to the sensation at the beginning, middle, and end of the out-breath. Recognize and see it clearly. The retreat we're beginning is not just doing sitting, but also walking meditation. After we break, we'll go and do a period of walking meditation. The exact same instructions can be applied to walking meditation. We're taking a very ordinary activity and turning it into a meditation by creating awareness around what we're doing. Take a path of about 20 to 25 or 30 paces. Bring attention to the physical act of walking. Again, relax the body so there's a nice posture. You're upright and walking a bit slower than normal. Just slowing things down a bit is helpful in creating awareness. Be attentive to the sensation of your right foot as you raise it, move it, and set it down. Lift your left foot, move it, and set it down. In this case, that sense of bringing attention into an extremity, the sensation of the feet, is most helpful because that's the strongest sensation in walking. That's where your contact point is. Bringing attention down into the feet, you've got a clear sensation to attend to. Walk slowly, following the rhythm of the walking until you get to the end of the meditation path. Try to pick a path that is fairly flat and even, so that you don't have to dodge obstacles or trip on things. That's quite distracting. Find a nice level spot where it's quite easy to walk back and forth. Then you can just concentrate on the physical sensation of walking, rather than having to be worrying about whether you're going to trip on something. Just be attentive to the simple physical act of walking. If the mind starts proliferating or wandering off, it's sometimes helpful to stop in the middle of the walking path until you clear and settle the mind. Come back to the physical sensation of walking and then start walking again. At the end of the path, stop either before or after you've turned around, before you start walking again. Physically stop and check. Am I present? Am I here? Am I mindful? Am I doing the walking meditation? If it's necessary, re-establish attention. When you're sure that attention is established, resume walking. Continue back and forth. In walking meditation, you use walking in the same way that you use the breath in sitting meditation. It's a physical sensation on which you can sustain a continuity of awareness. From that vantage point, you can start to recognize more clearly what are the habits of mind and moods that come in. What are the tendencies that arise in the mind? What does it feel like to be peaceful? What does it feel like to be attentive? What does it feel like to be aware? What is awareness anyway? What is mindfulness? How do I sustain it? Create interest and investigate what meditation is. What am I doing while meditating? Okay, any questions, comments?
Thanks for sharing, Luang Pa. I had a question. I know both Ajahn Sucitto and his talking about breath as energy, and Ajahn Jeff and his talking about breath as energy are fairly influential within, I think, meditation within the monastery, and that kind of idea of breath within the rest of the body. And I was just curious how that related to your own experience and the sort of connections there with what you have experienced or were sharing there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not really a clear dividing line. Certainly, how you experience the breath is as an energetic thing, but how you connect with the breath is through the physicality of the sensation. So they're really intertwined, and of course that's the just that pana in anapanasati is kind of life energy. So like panatipata, taking the life of another living creature. It's the first precept, not to be done. And so that sense of certainly the as an energetic quality, but it's definitely a good way, because sometimes it is. I think it's also in response to many of the techniques that both Ajahn Jeff and Ajahn Sucitto and I kind of were exposed to, subjected to, where this becomes very, very kind of mechanical, and trying to move away from that mechanical mode of how it's perceived. So that I think that it certainly is a valid and true depiction of the experience of the breath, and how you work with the breath, and how you extrapolate it into the experience of the mind, because it's the breath is really a window onto the experience of the whole mind-body complex.
And for speaking about effort, right effort, the previous link in the Noble Eightfold Path is about the mind. You spoke about right effort in the body, in the posture, but the posture of the mind, what would be the right effort in this case?
Well, the right effort would be that which helps the mind to be wholesome and aware and alert and present and relaxed. All of those things would be the application of right effort. What kind of effort does? Because sometimes you actually have to put forth some physical effort, and sometimes you have to learn how to relax, and in order for the mind to settle, in order for the mind to be relaxed, in order for awareness and attention to be sustained and sustainable. So it's really experimenting with the different what works.
Lumpa, I was wondering, like as we're kind of exploring with the breath, and then different things kind of like arise in like the body, like different types of sensations and stuff like that. Is it just to stay with the breath as your object of meditation and not be distracted by the various different types of phenomena arising, or do we also attend to the phenomena as well?
Depends if it's useful or not.
That's
the bottom line is always back to what's useful, what's beneficial, what helps to, because sometimes some sensation is sort of really calling out to one, and you start investigating it, and it's just a quagmire. And other times it's sort of sensation that actually helps shine a light on an aspect of what you're meditating for, or what you're meditating with. So it's not a black and white thing. You have to be willing to expand, and that's why you have to rely and trust your experience, and trust the experience that you've gained, and you don't really learn this without going through that experience.